Bonjour everyone and welcome back to my channel, The Waves of Your Soul. Today's video is going to be a super fun but chill video because I wanted to revivify this particular tag I did last year. It was a VR to the hashtag one deck for each sign, where we were asked to share one tarot deck for each of the astrological signs, and I really enjoyed doing it last year, and I wanted to do a 2023 edition where I could share new decks, different decks. It was originally a VR to Steph from Une Femme Moderne et Spirituelle. I will leave the link to her channel down below. And last year again there was lots of VRs. I did a tarot version, I did an oracle version, and as we are nearing the end of the year, today I really wanted to do a 2023 edition and offer a new proposition so that whether you're a fellow Aries, a Cancerian, or a Pisces, you hopefully will find something that is for you in this video. As per usual, all the names of the decks I'm mentioning are gonna be in the description box below, as well as all of my other social media links, other videos of mine you might want to check out. And if you're new here, hi! My name is Marine, I'm a French tarot reader. In my channel I love talking about tarot and oracle decks, and I also love reading the cards, so if you'd like to see any of that, make sure to subscribe. Let's get into sharing one tarot deck for each of the astrological signs. So before I get into it, obviously please take this with a grain of salt. I am only sharing my opinions about a deck that could suit each sign. I'm not an expert on astrology and the zodiac or anything like that. This is meant to be super fun, be taken with a grain of salt, and if you don't like the choice I've picked for your sign, then feel free to go into a rage and throw your computer out the window, but I will not be held responsible. Okay? I'm an Aries and I will never judge you for getting in a rage and throwing your computer out the window, as long as you don't blame me for it. Okay, before you get into it, I know I'm gonna get some question about this, so these particular cards are from the Mike Wilcox Tarot and Oracle. I'll leave the link down below. Obviously we're gonna start with Aries because first sign of the zodiac, I'm a fellow Aries, and if there is one thing that is our most toxic trait, is that we hate not being the first on the list of any kind of astrological related thing, horoscope or anything like that. Even zodiac memes, if we have to wait, if we're not the first one, it pisses us off because ever since we've been little, we've been used to seeing Aries first. So that is our most toxic trait, and you know what, I embrace it. So my choice for Aries as a tarot deck for the 2023 edition, and again, I've done this video already last year. There are going to be complete different choices, so if you haven't seen last year's video, I suggest you check it out. I'll leave it in the cards here. New Year edition, the most Aries deck in my collection absolutely has to be the Joe Sparrow Tarot. So why is this deck absolutely Aries energy to me? Like I said, I know Aries really well because I'm an Aries, my Sun is in Aries, my Mercury is in Aries. I'm a Ram through and through, even though there's a lot of things that are stereotypically Ram related that are not necessarily me. A lot of it, I can't deny, is still very much part of me. So Aries, I've got a very good grasp as to who we are, what we like, what we don't like. And for me, the Joe Sparrow is very much Aries because for me, Aries is very much childlike energy. We are the first sign in the zodiac, and we are supposed to represent like this idea of spring, the child of like the very first step, the seed, the child, and all of the Aries I know, we very much carry this like big inner child within us, and obviously this whole cartoonic vibe from the Joe Sparrow is very much that. There's a lot of like mischievousness about Aries. We can be a little bit mischievous, especially with our sense of humor, and also big childlike energy, being very in tune with our inner child, which I think the Joe Sparrow very much speaks of. The Joe Sparrow is also a deck that has a very strong personality, and I think I can safely say that that's the trait for Aries. We know what we like and we know what we don't like. We're not the type of people who will sit on the fence. There's a very like assertive and like self-starting aspect of the Aries. I know sometimes people then can turn into being bossy and argumentative, and maybe there are Aries out there who are very this stereotypical behavior of Mars, wanting to go into fights and stuff like that. That's not me. I'm a chill Aries, but I definitely relate to the idea of Aries, which is like, we know what we want and we are the ram against the door. If whatever the challenge put in front of us, we will bang our head against the door until our horns crush through it. Okay, so there's definitely this idea of Aries, which is that it doesn't matter what we put in front of ourselves, we are gonna get through it, sometimes at our own cost, at the cost of our own well-being, and we can even be our own enemy sometimes. But there's a lot of endurance and resilience within the Aries energy, which I think comes from the fact that we're related to Mars. And this idea of resilience, of energy, this drive, I see it very much reflected in the Joe Sparrow as well. So the Joe Sparrow has the childlike nature of the Aries, the drive nature of the Aries, and also the fact that it is so unique. So you can recognize this art style anywhere. It's unique, it has a point of view, it has a voice. I think it also relates to what I know a lot of us Aries out there have, which is this idea of like, we can't lie, we like to stand out a little bit. Like there's this idea of like, Aries is I am, so we can be very much focused on I, and that can definitely be a negative trait sometimes. Why our opposite sign is Libra, which helps us to think about the other and our relationship with others. But being in tune with ourselves is something that Aries, I'm sure you can all relate, comes quite naturally. We know what makes us passionate, we know what we stand for. Like I think a lot of the Aries I know have a very strong idea of at least who they are as a person, their core values and things like that. And I feel like the Joe Sparrow also very much taps into that particular energy. So I thought for all of those reasons this was the perfect Aries deck. Also innocent, there's a side of Aries that can be innocent, but also sometimes can be too spontaneous, too impulsive, and needs the other sign to help them teach about other than expressing ourselves, and I think in return we can help the other signs learn how to stand up for how to express ourselves and how to enjoy getting in touch with our inner children. So the Joe Sparrow I've chosen for Aries. Okay, the next deck is for Taurus, and so far I'm still in well-known waters because Taurus is actually my moon sign. It's a sign I feel very comfortable in. It's definitely the sign that helps me tone down my more fire-like energy that comes from Aries and this Mars. Having this Taurus moon, it really helps me to chill, to be honest, and I think that's why I'm definitely not a stereotypical Aries in the sense of getting mad and being an angry driver and all of those memes we get on the internet, which is like when you get mad you want to punch someone. That's not really me. I don't really like confrontation, so I'm definitely more on the chiller side of things, and I think that comes from my Taurus moon. On top of that, again, another one of my best friend is Taurus, so I feel like I have a very good grasp on Taurus energy, and the deck I chose for Taurus is the Many Queens Tarot. So the reason why I chose this deck is, well, first, Taurus is linked to the earth, right? So for me, Taurus is very much associated with the idea of embodiment, being in your body and enjoying everything that life has to offer, whether it's delicious food, whether it's a nice perfume, a nice walk in nature, or buying yourself a lovely silk scarf. There is a strong aspect of Taurus, and all the people I love who are Tauruses, that they are very good at enjoying being in the present, and they're very good at gathering things around them to invoke beauty, abundance, joy, confidence, and just like very much Empress energy, right? Which is everything Taurus is about. So the reason why I chose the Many Queens is because a lot of the energy of the Many Queens is around being comfortable in your own skin, being comfortable in your body, whatever your body looks like. There's an idea throughout this deck that is about embracing all bodies, all aspects of being human, and all aspects of being really in the present moment, of connecting to the material world, to the here and now. And I think for that particular aspect of this deck, it absolutely gives me this Venusian Empress energy, despite the fact that it's colorless, because at first I was like, surely my Taurus deck should have color, but it turns out I'm okay with it not having color. Everything about this deck screams, the embodiment screams, Empress screams, tuning into your body, celebrating the things around you. And there's just a very strong earthy, steadfast, fertile aspect to Taurus that I see represented here despite the light of color. This is looking sensuous, it's looking blooming, it's looking pleasure-seeking, and there's something about it that very much makes me think of the idea of Taurus, of Venus and of the Empress. So this is my particular choice for Taurus. Again, let me know in the comments if your favorite Taurus is, what do you think, but there's something about this that just feels like a blooming flower, but also that feels very tenacious and loyal and patient, and I think those are all strong aspects of Taurus that I love and that I appreciate in all of my Taurus friends and the Taurus people I meet. So the Many Queens is absolutely my Taurus deck for this 2023 edition. Let's move on to Gemini. I think that between Aries, Scorpio and Geminis, we are supposedly the three villains of the zodiac. Like every time I see some rude memes about any sign, it's always Aries, because supposedly all we want to do is we want to fight and we're too impulsive and we just want to punch people in the face. Gemini, because supposedly you guys are two-faced, you have different personalities, you're fakes. And apparently Scorpios, because you guys are too deep, too intense, and all you think about is death. And those are all very stupid stereotypes. So I don't know a ton of Geminis, but I've discovered that a lot of the people that I admire, whether they are public faces, whether they are authors I read, whatever, I've discovered over the years that they are Geminis. And so for me, I've come to associate Gemini with the brilliant mind, with being curious, with getting tons of ideas, with this idea of like Knight of Swords, Page of Swords, someone who's like the genius archetype, really, someone who's very obviously Mercury influenced, so we have lots of ideas, curious, communicative, someone who's very connected, adapted, and who's very street smart as well. Those are all qualities I've discovered Gemini have, and that I've discovered almost by chance when realizing that a lot of the people I watch or the people I read and things like that actually are Geminis. So the deck I've chosen for Gemini is the Symbolic Soul Tarot. This is the Los Carabio deck, it's a mass market deck. So the reason why I've chosen this deck is because it has a very strong personality and it has a very strong sense of humor hidden behind a image that could look very serious, very almost elegant and esoteric. Because when you look at this particular deck, you see black, white and gold, you see a lot of esoteric symbols, and it could seem very serious, like in the sense of like this stereotypical occult esoteric deck that draws from a lot of the traditional tarot history, and it has this aspect, but it also has someone peeing in the world card. And that is a perfect summary of this deck. It's half serious and full of symbolism and very deep, and half ridiculous, mischievous, cheeky in the best way possible. And I think ultimately this double facet, this ability to hold both extremes so well and to juggle between both perfectly, truly encaptures the idea of Gemini for me, because for me Geminis are big children just as much as Aries. For me, Aries and Geminis, we are the kids of the zodiac. Our inner kids are still very alive, and we can sometimes seem a little bit childlike and naive and things like that. For me, Gemini, I've definitely noticed, have this same kind of vibe as this aspect of Aries, and this idea of like being super curious, being interested in lots of things, being like, you know what, like a child, like they're interested about so many things regardless of what other people say they should or should not do. But there's also a part of Gemini connected to Mercury that's very connected, very perceptive, very like I was saying, street smart, and that still manages to draw a lot of knowledge and to draw a lot of understanding. And this deck very much represents this duality between being serious and being silly, which I think Geminis are so talented at being. You can be both super serious and both super silly, because I think you understand the power of silliness just as Aries do, which is we don't always have to take ourselves seriously. It doesn't make you a serious person to take yourself seriously. Actually, the reverse. I found a lot of people who know how to invite humor in their lives and how to laugh at life or at themselves end up to be usually a lot wiser than people who can't do that. It's a curious deck. I know it won't please everybody, and I think that's perfectly fine for Geminis as well. They're not necessarily people pleaser. There's something about it that's very unique, that's very strange. Definitely in my top decks of the year. If that's not out yet, spoiler alert, this is very well ranked. If you're Gemini, I would love to, or you have moon or whatever in Gemini, then please let me know in the comments what do you think. Okay, let's move on to Cancer. So you know how earlier in Gemini I was like, oh, usually the three signs that are always being told are the villain of the zodiac is like Aries, Scorpio and Gemini. Let me tell you, Cancerians are the true villains. And I say that with absolute love, because my dad is a Cancerian, my grandma is a Cancerian, like 50% of all my family on the dad side is a Cancerian. I definitely have a lot of Cancerian in my family, and I have a lot of love for Cancer sign in my family. But that has taught me, growing up in a Cancerian environment, that you can't deny Cancerian sign can have a little bit of a darker shadow side, just as we all do. And that's okay, we all have that side. No sign is just light or shadow, but it makes me laugh that Cancer is always depicted as this mother nurturing vibe, when I know deep down that they definitely have some teeth, okay? They can bite, they can like squeeze you, okay? They don't have teeth, but they have those things, I don't remember what they're called, but they can hurt, okay? Don't be fooled. All that to say, no sign is just a stereotype, no sign is just one thing, light or shadow, and I think that's why I wanted to redo this video as well. The deck I chose, which I think for me is the most Cancerian deck in my collection this year, is Tarot as Color by Isel Colquhoun. This is an indie deck. It's a very special deck. I don't even know if it's still in print, so if it is, I'll leave the link for it down below. If it's not, I'm super sorry. I have no idea. The reason why this is my Cancerian deck is because for me, Cancer, well, first of all, it's a water sign, so, and as you're gonna see, every single image in this particular tarot deck is made out of those, like, I don't know if it's ink or paint, but as you're gonna see, it looks like everything is dissolving. They're all painting, and there's a whole story about how this deck was created. If you're curious about it, I encourage you to Google it, because it's super interesting. But as you can see, the images on this deck are very unique. It's not your stereotypical RWS clone, or even remotely looking something like a Tarot de Marseille or a Toss. It's very unique. It's distilling the energies of each card into its essence, and I think at the end of the day that is very Cancerian. For me, Cancerian are, yes, linked to water, but they also are very they're also, due to their feeling, sympathetic, protective and intuitive nature, are able to distill the essence of things to get to the core of the feeling. And this idea of getting to the core of the feeling, of almost dissolving into one's emotions, is very much represented in those paintings, because when I use this deck, when I look at these images, I feel like I'm dissolving in something, in an emotion, in the feeling, and it makes this deck amazing for intuitive reading, for channeling, which is something that I also very much associate with Cancer. I think Cancers are very empathetic and very intuitive, but I think this deck can also appear a little bit, how can I say that? Maybe this deck appears a little bit overwhelming and out of reach to some of you, because it's so different to a stereotypical tarot deck. You might look at this and think, how is this the devil? This doesn't tell me the devil at all. And you have to spend time and sit with it and get to know it. So it's not like loud and in your face and very like open. And I think that can be one of the shadow side of Cancer, which is that they can be very introverted, almost defensive, and hard to read. I'm not gonna lie, Cancers can be hard to read sometimes. Clamp down on their shell and suddenly shut down, which can make them feel a little bit distant. I think this particular deck can give that off energy as well, right? If you don't spend time with it, you might not be able to bond with it, and I think it can be said as some Cancerian aspects as well. This represents a very intuitive, feeling, tender aspect of Cancer, but also the moody and potentially defensive and shut and closed off side of Cancer as well, that you will only break through if you take your time, if you get to know them, and if you cram through that shell. For me, the Tarot color is the ultimate Cancerian deck. Okay, let's move on to Leo. So Leo, our second fire sign, is fire sign that again I have very strong affinity with because I have Leo rising, and so this is supposedly the image that I project. I feel like I understand Leo, and it's just a time of year, Leo season, that I love. When I was living in the northern hemisphere, summer was my favorite time of year. Now I live on a tropical island, it's summer all day every day, but I remember the feeling of Leo season, being in the northern hemisphere, summer and ice creams and just full blooms in the trees, and the energy of Leo in itself is something that I really enjoy. And honestly, it was one of the easiest choices because the deck for all of my Leos out there has to be the Lioness Oracle Tarot. It says Oracle in it, it is a tarot deck. This is an indie deck by Alejandra Leon, and it's still in print, you can find it. I love this artist's work. I think that they have done an oracle and an astrological oracle as well, which I really want, and that's definitely on my wish list. I need to thank the lovely Gigi. If you're watching this, Gigi, thank you so much for sending this deck to me because I'm obsessed. I love it, and it helps me tune in with my Leo side, which I'm so grateful for. So this deck is a Leo because, well, first of all, the title, the Lioness Oracle, and it truly has a lot of felines, a lot of lions, a lot of lioness in this deck, which for me helps embody this type of energy. But also, again, if we think about Leo as a season, which is like it's summer, it's hot, everything is in full bloom, there's an expressive, creative, warm and self-confident aspect of Leo, which I think this deck represents very well. This like bedazzled, glowing, kind of like showman side of Leo this deck has. There's like a lot of confidence in this deck, there's a lot of personality in this deck, and everything about it is giving me Leo vibes, you know, even the fact that it's so rich in collage can even tap into one of the shadower side of Leos, which some people complain that sometimes Leos can be too much. The idea of like too muchness, too loud or too excessive or too boisterous or whatever it is. This I guess could tap into that because it's a lot. There's a lot going on. It's collage. There's like lots of different influences, modern images mixed with older paintings, and yet it makes sense. It has a thing to say, it has a point of view and something, and I think for me it truly represents the playful, warm, expressive and full of life energy of Leos. This is my choice for Leo. It had to be. It was super easy for me to choose this one. I love this deck. As far as collage decks go, this is one of the best out there for me. Again, thank you so much to Gigi if you're watching, because I love this so much. And so there we go, the Lioness Tarot Oracle for all of my Leos out there. Let's move on to Virgo. So Virgo is an earth sign, and this is a sign that is very grounded. We have the stereotypical image of Virgos who are super methodical, super detail oriented and super analytical, which I'm sure a lot of people can identify with. But there's also a very strong aspect of Virgos that I think we tend to forget, which are the more magical alchemists, potion makers. It's a sign that is very grounded in earth and that also very talented at being aligned, being true to themselves and finding ways to invite rituals in the everyday. And I think that's why we talk about serially oriented and being a very logical and being super analytical and stuff, because I think That way, Virgos can invite rituals into day-to-day life, which can help us to see the magic everywhere, to be honest. For all of us who are not Virgos, it can help us to realize magic is in day-to-day, magic is in the routine, magic is in showing up for yourself and for others again and again and again. So, the deck that absolutely has that Virgo energy for me is the Genius Garden Tarot, and this is an indie deck. It is by Jesse Huttenberg. Now, I don't know if this deck is still in print or not, because at the time of me filming this, the creator just said that they were potentially considering closing their tarot business, and I don't know if that means that they'll stop printing this deck or if they're just not gonna be doing readings or whatever. So if I can find links at the time of me posting and this deck is still available, I'll be sure to put it down below. So here are the backs, which I don't think we can do any more Virgo than this. And the reason why I chose this particular deck for Virgo is because first, this deck was fully painted by the creator, hand painted, and that requires a lot of patience, that requires a lot of dedication, of craft, of showing up, and which is very Virgo in itself. The idea of patience, of showing up, of developing your craft, of being dutiful in itself, I think is very Virgo. On top of that, the energy of this deck is super gentle, super caring, super loving, and super grounded. The guidebook for this particular deck is written in a way that is so healing, so dedicated to helping us feel better as humans, which very much taps into the healer energy of Virgo, talented at alchemizing pain and turning it into hidden gems and golden nuggets. It's very connected, it's very aligned, it's very healing and soothing, and it's there. You can tell it was created to help, you can tell it was created to heal. You can feel that in the intention, in the guidebook, in the representation. And I think that is a good summary of Virgo energy, of the sign of Virgo as a whole. So that's why I chose the Genius Garden Tarot for my Virgos out there. Let's talk about Libras. Libra, a beautiful air sign. It's very funny because being an Aries, Libra is on the opposite side of the wheel for me. And it turns out that, you know, if you read astrological books and stuff, Libras are teachers for Aries and we are teachers for Libras because we're on the opposite side. But it's very funny because Libras being opposite of Aries, I've discovered I am a total Libra magnet. It's because every time in the recent years that I've met someone new and we've started to become friends and they've started to like join my inner circle, I've discovered they've been Libra literally 8 times out of 10. It's like a Libra fest. My September and October are very heavy birthday months for me, and I love it. It shows that I still have a lot to learn from this sign, and I really enjoy Libra energy because, like I said, I have a lot of friends who are Libras, like a lot. So I feel like I know Libras pretty well, and the deck I chose for Libra is actually the Black Femme Tarot by Letitia Shelton, illustrated by Roberta Rodriguez. This was a Kickstarter I backed. It's an indie deck. I think now you can get it on Etsy, I believe, and I believe there might be even a second edition. Not 100% sure, you'd have to do your research, but I feel like I've seen stuff on Instagram regarding like a new edition. It comes with a really cool guidebook, and can we talk about those particular edges? Come on, this is just too pretty, too beautiful, which, let's be real, a big aspect of Libras. All of my Libra friends like beautiful things. They have a beautiful aesthetic, they have a strong idea of what they find beautiful, what they find pleasing. They can curate interiors and beautiful outfits and beautiful in decors and all of those things better than anyone else can. So the fact that this is so beautiful, totally Libra as well. The reason why I chose this particular deck for my Libra deck is because, like I was saying, Libra, first of all, we're still talking about Venus, we're thinking about the idea of beauty, of aesthetically pleasing, but also there's an idea around Libra which is very much focused around community, around taking care of others, around justice, right, equality and all of those things. And this being the Black Femme Tarot, it represents a community that is very much underrepresented, that doesn't usually get put in the spotlight. For that reason, I think it represents the idea of Libra so well, which is like hello, we're here, we matter, and we should be taken into consideration. We should listen all voices in the world. We should pay attention to people suffering. We should pay attention to people who are different from us. The socially aware, cooperative, justice driven aspect of Libra I really recognize in this particular deck. This is an RWS inspired deck, so if you are familiar with this system, you'll have no problem reading from it. Tap into this idea of community, of belonging, of feeling included, and of caring for others, of listening to other people's voices, listening to what they have to say, listening to what they stand for, hearing people's differences and their struggles and their joy, everything that makes us humans, even though we might all be different, I think is very important for Libras, and at least that's something I've noticed amongst all the Libra people I know. It's something that's important to them, and I think it's very well represented in this deck. So the Black Thumb Tarot is absolutely my choice for Libra. Okay, let's move on to Scorpios. Again, I believe a sorely misjudged sign. Just like most signs, we just see a lot of stereotypes, we just see a lot of like shortcuts, and I think that's fine. To be honest, it's fun as well. When I see funny Aries meme, I can't lie, I relate, I feel seen. So there's a part of me that don't like the stereotypes, but there's a part of me that can laugh about them and definitely not take them too seriously. That being said, when we think of Scorpio, we obviously think about an intense, transformative, primal sign that is linked to death, our shadows, our mystery side, our subconscious, the part of us that is definitely a lot more primal and internal and that's linked to transformation. And that was a super easy choice for me in terms of carrying Scorpio energy. I had to share the Wandering Spirit Tarot by Enu Lee. I will leave the link to this tarot deck below. I thought it was out of print, turns out it's still in print, and I'm so happy because I know a lot of you wanted it, and so I'm really happy that this is still available, at least at the time of me filming. So as you're gonna see on every single card, we see a girl and a skeleton, and when the creator, and so the skeleton can either represent death itself, a past loved one, so maybe ancestors or beloved dead, or as it is written in the guidebook, for the creator it actually represented their depression, their sadness, their grief that they were going through. So this deck is very powerful, it's very transformative, it's very intense. It's not a deck I would use like for everyday readings. It's not a deck I would use for the gentle little reading about how my day is going. No, this is the kind of deck I want to use if I want to do some deep work, if I want to connect to, again, either my shadows, or if I want to work through grief. This has to be the most powerful, impactful, and beautiful death card I've ever seen. Every time I see it, it does something to me on a soul level that I can't explain. But there's just something about this deck that's very profound, that you can feel the emotions and the intention that I was put through it. And as I was saying, when you read the guidebook, it says that the creator created this when they were going through grief, when after they lost a few people that they cared about very close together. So this is also a deck that really taps into grief, into the transformative experience that is grief, that we all experience as human beings at one point or another. It represents death, which is something that we have all in common, but that can be quite intense, quite triggering, quite primal, which I think is very Scorpio as well. I mean, Scorpios are very intense. They can be triggering for the sense that they help us look at things that we might not want to look at every day, and yet that we need to. We want to be in tune with all the aspects and facets that it is to be a human. So this absolutely has to be my Scorpio deck, because there's nothing more Scorpio than this. There's something eternal about this deck, something that taps into the eternal relationship we have with death, we have with passings, we have with grief. There's something also very regenerative, which is also, I think, related to Scorpio. Life and death, the cycle, had to be my choice for Scorpio. And I'm curious if there's any Scorpios watching. Let me know. Do you agree? Does this deck speak to you? Do you feel seen by this deck? Or not at all? You're allowed to disagree, obviously. This is not a dictator. So feel free to let me know in the comments. Let's move on to Sagittarius. Sagittarius is. I don't know the plural of Sagittarius. I didn't know last year. I still don't know. For me, it's Sagittarius is, and that's it. That's how I'm gonna be saying it for the rest of my life, because I truly don't know. It might just be Sagittarius, but I think Sagittarius is sounds better. So give my Sagittarius friends as being enthusiastic, independent, are seekers. They're adventurous and also very honest, but there's this like passionate, almost unbridled side of Sagittarius, which I thought fit perfectly with the Bad Girl Tarot. This is an indie deck by Katie Skelly and one of my favorite deck of this year. And I think you can see from how beat up the box is. I've had this not even 8 months, you guys. Like, it's not even been 8 months and it is falling apart. There's actual glue and tape inside because I can't stop using this deck. I've used it a ton this year, and so the box truly is giving up on me. As the name suggests, the Bad Girl Tarot, this is a very cheeky, full of sense of humor, but yet very confident. It's full of humor, it's full of personality, it's full of I don't give a shit attitude, which I think are all very Sagittarius trait. The idea of you can't tell me what to do, the idea of being full of energy, of being risk-taking, of not being able to be controlled in any way, in the sense of you won't tame me down, you won't dim my light, you won't put me in a corner, you don't tell me what to do. Like, I stand up for myself, I shine my light, is very Sagittarius to me, and that's everything that this deck gives. All of those bad girlies for me are Sagittarius because they are fun, they are adventurous, they're fierce, they might even seem tactless. Okay, that can also be one of the shadows of Sagittarius, that people think sometimes it's like maybe a bit too tactless or honest, but you can definitely not reproach them for standing up, for being authentic, for being fierce, for being badass. And I think that's all very Sagittarius trait, this like fire energy, this like absolute badass vibes. Okay, let's move on. We have 3 more. Let's move on to Capricorns. Capricorns, an earth sign for which I have a very soft spot. Capricorns are always represented as very serious, very career oriented, very ambitious, and the idea that as goats they are able to climb mountains and nothing gets in their way, and there's definitely parts of that are true, but again, we are all so full of layers, so full of aspects that we can't just narrow them down to one thing. But for me, the deck that represented the most Capricorn, both in the idea of being steadfast, of being traditional, enduring and accomplished, and also for the aspect of Capricorn, which at least in the people that I know is very funny, because for me, Capricorns are one of the funniest signs. They have this deadpan type of humor which I love, and some of the funniest people I know are Capricorn, so there's definitely a big humor in Capricorn. And so the deck that represents all of those things, all of those aspects of Capricorn for this 2023 edition was the Estrella Tarot by Ash. We leave the link to Ash's channel down below. She is a French creator and she does YouTube channel in French, but she also has some really cool decks out there, indie decks. She's got this one which is a Marseille Tarot de Marseille revisited and modernized, but she also has some oracle decks, and I believe they're bilingual if I'm not mistaken. I think she has a Lenormand. Just go and check Ash out. She's a super talented artist and I really like everything that she does. So the Estrella Tarot is my Capricorn choice because first, it's a Tarot de Marseille, right? And I think Tarot de Marseille are Capricorns because they are a little bit more serious than RWS. You know, they are definitely, at least they appear to be more serious, like they appear to be more traditional. Obviously they've been there longer, so they have this like traditional idea, historical idea. The fact that they've been there for so long, Tarot de Marseille, relates to the enduring aspect of the Capricorn type of tarot that exists for centuries and that we still have to this day. All of those aspects of disciplined, serious, traditional, structured, Tarot de Marseille is very Capricorn-like. There's something that can also seem a bit rigid about Tarot de Marseille, which I know some people find about some Capricorn people too, that sometimes it can be a bit rigid, a bit like too disciplined and reserved. So those are all things that I thought would relate Tarot de Marseille and Capricorn. Now, like I said, for me Capricorn is definitely not just that. All of my Capricorn friends, and like I said, I've got some who are some of the people I love most in this world. They're also very funny, they're also very playful, and they can tap into sense of humor that is deeper than most. It's this like wit and banter that I think is very peculiar to Capricorn. And I think this fun aspect, this witty aspect, very well to the Estrella Tarot, because Ash actually modernized the Tarot de Marseille and included some pop culture elements. We also have a very colorful deck, obviously, as you've seen. It's a lot more colorful than a traditional Tarot de Marseille. Everything about this for me is still very Capricorn-like, because it's a bridge between paying homage to traditions and to where we come from, and building something strong and steadfast that will endure the test of time. And I truly believe that Ash's deck is a modern classic. I think she's done a fantastic job at modernizing the Tarot de Marseille in a way that makes it relevant to today. And so for me, this is absolutely a Capricorn deck. If you're still here, if you've made it to Aquarius, then you're a real one, and just know I'm sending you so much hugs. So Aquarius, an air sign that is very unique, very quirky, electric, radical, free, eccentric, all of those things. I grew up around an Aquarius. My mom is an Aquarius, so I feel like I have first-hand experience on what it's like to be around an Aquarius. And even after 30 plus years of knowing her, she still surprises me all the time. And you know, we think about Aquarius as being very free, eccentric, futuristic. You know, Aquariuses, they don't live in 2023, they already are in 2033, they're already in the next decade, they're there already. They have the ability to think ahead, to be very progressive, and to be already like a step ahead. But I think Aquariuses are also very intuitive, but it's a more cerebral type of intuitive. It's intuiting things thanks to their mind, if that makes sense. I don't know if I'm explaining myself well, but hopefully those of you guys out there who are Aquariuses will understand what I'm trying to say. Anyway, for me, the Aquarius deck that I thought was very good was the Dream Visions Tarot. This is an indie deck by Emma Zeng. It's a Kickstarter I had backed that I received this year that I've put back in order. I've put most of the decks back in order for you guys so you can enjoy them. So I decided to associate this particular deck with Aquarius because this deck feels very ethereal. It feels very like almost like you're tapping into another dimension with different beings. Maybe they're cosmic beings, maybe they are our higher selves, maybe they are our guides and guardians, whatever you believe in, tapping into source and the divine and all of that. This deck feels very channeled, it feels very intuitive, and it feels very connected to something higher than ourselves. And for that reason, I thought it was a very good representation of Aquarius, because for me, Aquarius, on top of the idea of innovation, of being one step ahead, there's also an idea of being able to tap into something higher than ourselves to help us be better. It's like through the innovation, through the liberal aspect, through the community aspect of Aquarius, they help push ourselves, be more humanitarian, be more caring about the good of all, not just some. And that I think comes from some sort of being able to channel higher guidance, higher wisdom. And this deck very much represents the idea of higher guidance, higher wisdom, which I think is a wisdom that is not contained by the ego, that is not contained by the self, but that's bigger than that. And I think that's very Aquarius, but I also think it's very much this deck. So I hope I'm making sense. It's getting a little bit hot and I'm getting a little bit flared up, so I might start to lose my words a little bit, but hopefully you'll understand what I'm trying to say about this deck that makes me think of Aquarius. I've heard people say that they've struggled bonding with this deck because it felt a little bit detached and cold, and I think that is what sometimes we can reproach Aquariuses as well. It's not my experience of this deck, and that's not my experience of this sign, but again, I can understand, and I think that this deck can have that aspect of being almost like, it's almost so alien and futuristic that it could feel detached, cold, and like you don't quite understand each other. But this is a beautiful deck. It's definitely a very powerful deck. It's tapping into higher wisdom, talking with my guides, but I found it has a particular voice that is very channeled, and I think it corresponds well to Aquarius energy. I had the second edition. I didn't mention that because I'm a bad YouTuber. The sides are blue, here are the backs. Sometimes I'm just a terrible YouTuber, you guys, but you know that by now. You should be used to it. So there we go. Okay, last one. Oh my god, we made it, guys. If you have made it to Pisces, please leave a little fish emoji in the comments. It will let me know you've made it this far. It will make me super happy. So if you've made it this far, leave a little fish emoji here. But let's round it up with our Pisces deck. And this is gonna be controversial. I know I'm gonna hear some gasps here because my Pisces deck is called, wait for it, drum roll, I'm gonna get cancelled in 3, 2, 1. The Age of Aquarius Tarot. I know, the Age of Aquarius for Pisces, girl, it's written Aquarius and you're putting it in Pisces. What the fuck is wrong with you? What did you smoke? What is going on? You've lost your mind. Hear me out, okay? Don't cancel me straight away. Hear me out. Pisces is a water sign. It's linked. We know Pisces to be very imaginative, very intuitive, very dreamlike, spiritual, empathetic, ephemeral, emotional, sometimes maybe even escapist, and sometimes maybe delusional, and that's all fine. Me, Pisces is very linked to, well, first the ocean, but also this idea of spirituality and of being very in tune with our emotions, with our intuition, with our third eye. And there's something about Pisces that makes me feel about dissolving into the ocean, kind of like Cancer, but more cosmic, right? If I think of Pisces, I think ocean, but I think cosmic ocean. I think ocean in the planets, like we dissolve into the waters of a magical planet because we are aliens. Definitely less grounded on Earth and a lot more cosmic vibes. So the Tarot of Aquarius, even though it's called Aquarius because it speaks of the Age of Aquarius and everything that the New Age associate with that. For me, this deck is a Pisces through and through because it speaks to this cosmic ocean vibe, which I associate with personally with Pisces, such as this Page of Cups, for example. There are some beautiful ocean inspired cards in this deck that give me such strong Pisces energy that I cannot deny it, that this is a Pisces. There are whales and mermaids and dolphins and things that are very linked to imagination, magic, this dreamlike world, but also this emotional world, this like escape into a fantasy world that for me are just, again, very Pisces energy. For me, if I was to define the Pisces, I would define them as the mystic, and this deck represents that. I'm not such as much of a fan of the cosmic starseed vibe. That's not very me. I'm definitely more of a grounded 2 feet on earth kind of person. I don't really vibe with the whole starseed concept. You know, I told you I'm a Taurus moon, so I like things that I can touch, smell and eat. But I can't deny how beautiful it is, how well done it is. The images are beautiful. We have some keywords reversed and upwards. The guidebook is really well written. And this is one of my favorite cards ever, the King of Cups, because I love a humpback whale. So I can't deny that this deck is gorgeous, even though it's not perfect. There are things I don't love, but it's still a Pisces at the end of the day. This, for me, is what I think you Pisces do as soon as you have 2 minutes in front of you. You've got 2 minutes, let me daydream about something else and just escape to another world so I don't have to be here. Here we are, we have gone through 12 of the zodiac signs. I've shared with you 12 different decks. We had some mass market and some indie choices, and I hope you've enjoyed them. I hope that you enjoyed seeing your signs. Let me know in the comments if you agree, if you disagree. Like I said before, this is not a dictator, you're allowed to disagree. Share whatever you want, feel like sharing in the comments. Let me know what you would have chosen. Let me know if you enjoyed this video, and if you did, then Please feel free to leave it a thumbs up or a little comment. It's a small gesture, but it does really help my little channel to grow. So until next time, I hope you take care of yourself. I'm sending you so much good vibes and keep navigating the waves of your soul. Bye!